Alright, so I'm going to be going over another dumb build. This one I call my super sneaky stealth werewolf because that's exactly what this build is. It's about being sneaky, it's about killing people very quickly with being a werewolf. And naturally, the best name for a super sneaky stealth werewolf is Santa Claus, so I made Santa. Uh, so, going to start off kind of similar how I did before. With my last one, I'm going to start off with some abilities. Now, this build is all around using the skill Shred. So, basic skills don't really matter, just putting a single point into Claw and then Enhanced Claw just to get that increased attack speed, but it doesn't matter, I never use this thing. Moving on to core skills, I got 1 rank into Heart of the Wild and then 3 into Wild Impulses for that increased core skill damage, but increased spirit cost, which the spirit cost doesn't matter. I'll get to that in a moment. I got 1 point in Predatory Instincts. That was just a spare point. Critical strike chances increased by 4%, which is alright. Got 23 to Shred, because Shred is a useful skill. And of course, I'm taking that up to Primal Shred. That makes it so that Shred's additional attacks also perform a dash. In addition, Shred's critical strike damage is increased. That's the main thing. It's way better than this poison one. But Shred gains 30% attack speed and heals for 4% of your max life if an enemy is struck, which is good. And Shred normally makes it so that you shapeshift into a werewolf and dash at a target, performing a trio of combo attacks. First one does 50,000 damage, second one does 70,000, and the last one does 130,000 damage. And that's only the bare minimum that this does. So I'll kind of get into more of that in a moment, but still 23 ranks to a single skill. Oh, also got Digitrograde Gate. This is for movement speed. When I'm a werewolf, I gain 48% movement speed, which is a lot. I probably don't need that many points into it, but that's okay. I just like moving fast. So, moving onward to defensive skills. Got mostly defensive skills here. Got Earthen Bulwark, mostly for that unstoppable enhanced Earthen Bulwark. The barrier is alright, but again, this is mostly if I get stunned, I pop this and I'm not stunned. Got Blood Howl. I'll point out why in a moment, but it heals you for 20% of your max life. And then with Enhanced, kills reduce the cooldown of it by 1 second, and got Preserving Blood Howl so that it also increases attack speed. It's better than the Generating Spirit one. This is probably one of my main defensive things, so if I'm taking too much damage, I use Debilitating Roar, shapeshift into a werebear, and bellow a mighty roar, and nearby enemies reduce their damage by 40%. That's really good. Then it also fortifies me for 22% of my max life, and I also have it so that it increases my damage. This one is also good, the heal, but I don't really need the heal aspect of it too much. As far as passives, just 1 point into Ancestral Fortitude so I can unlock the Vigilance. You gain 28% damage reduction for 6 seconds after using a defensive skill. Blood Howl has a 15-second cooldown, but I reduce it by 1 second every time I kill an enemy, so that's a pretty good combo. Backlash, you deal 15% increased damage for 5 seconds after casting a defensive skill. This is also good. Moving downward towards Companion, the main thing here is actually literally just Feral Aptitude. Deal 18% increased damage while healthy and 18% increased damage while at or above 100% movement speed. That's it. It's just good. Then moving on to Wrath skills. I have quite a lot, and I probably don't need everything in Hurricane that I do have in Hurricane, but I have it. It's mostly for the cooldown reduction of it. I need this thing to always be active. And then Enhanced Hurricane. Enemies who are damaged by Hurricane are slowed. But the main thing is, enemies affected by Hurricane deal 20% less damage. So, Hurricane makes enemies do less damage, and that's good. And I could always have it active. This just gives Endless Tempest is just increase the duration of Hurricane and Cataclysm. Elemental Exposure is just a chance to make enemies vulnerable when you damage them with a storm skill. This is a storm skill, so that can make enemies vulnerable. Dealing lightning damage to enemies has a 32% chance to immobilize them. If they are immobilized, the lightning damage dealt to them is increased by 28%. So that's pretty good. And then Bad Omen, up to 40% chance when you deal damage to a vulnerable, immobilized, or stunned enemy that a lightning bolt also hits them. That's a pretty good thing. I'll get to why in a moment, even though it looks like the only storm skill I have is Hurricane, but I'll get to why it's good in a moment. Then, Neurotoxin, poison enemies are slowed. I just got this to unlock. In Venom, you and your companions gain 40% bonus critical strike damage against poisoned enemies, which is good. And Toxic Claws, Shred and Lacerate deals an additional 192% of their base damage as poisoning damage over 4 seconds, which is really good. Then, moving down towards the ultimate stuff, it's honestly not that great. I got Quick Shift. When I first shapeshift into a new animal form, grants 2% increased damage and 12%. This bonus is lost for 3 seconds when you're a human. So, it's pretty good. It's just essentially a 12% damage bonus. Mostly have it for heightened senses. When shapeshifting, Werebear grants 12% damage reduction and Werewolf grants 12% movement speed. These bonuses persist as long as you are in either form. They are lost after 3 seconds in human form. Now, I don't need the movement speed, but I do need that damage reduction from being a Werebear. So what that means is when I use Debilitating Roar, I turn into a Werebear, and then when I turn back into a Werewolf, I still get that damage reduction. So, it's pretty good. Alright, moving on to Defensive Posture. This one is good. Increase the amount of Fortify you gain from all sources by 20%, and you gain 12% damage reduction while fortified. That's really nice. Damage reduction is needed in this build. And then, Nature's Resolve, 20% chance when struck to fortify you for 4% of your max life. Which is alright. I do need more fortified generation here, but that's okay. Key passives, you definitely want Lupine Ferocity. Every third werewolf skill hit critically strikes. Werewolf critical strikes deal 270% increased damage. That is really good. So that is all of this, and it looks like there's not that many skills. Main one is Shred. This is the main skill, hands down. All the other stuff is literally just there to buff it up. Then, Paragon board. I could probably have a more efficient version of this Paragon board, and I'm probably going to at some point. Because as you see, I have like two, yeah. I could probably make this more efficient. I'll do that later, though. First board, I usually go with Spirit. Whatever the buff is to just increase critical strike damage, that's usually what I put here. And Spirit is a good one. Because that's just critical strike damage multipliers. Then, I always get all the rare nodes here just because they're useful. Because it's max health and armor, damage and max health, elite damage and willpower, damage and willpower. They're just damage buffs, basically. And then some defensive ones. Usually this ends up having like resistance to all elements, but that's okay. Alright, moving on to the second board. Lust for Carnage, critical strikes with werewolf skills restore 2% to spirit and deal 50% multiplicative increased damage, which is another multiplier onto my crit damage, which is useful. The glyph I put in here was Fang and Claw, 75% bonus to all magic nodes. That's buffing my werewolf damage and my critical strike damage, both of which are really nice things to buff, and I do want that. So, that's a good one. The other rare nodes that I got on this board were Ferocity, Resistance to all elements, and Max Life. And Wild's Call, Attack Speed and Max Spirit. Pretty decent. Didn't get the Fleeting one, but that's okay. Then I believe I moved upward. Let me double check. 340 versus... No, I moved to the right. Alright, moved to the right. Get Heightened Malice. While a poison enemy is nearby, you deal 35% increased damage plus an additional 5% multiplicative for each additional poisoned enemy, up to 4. My Shred poisons enemies due to those envenomed claws or whatever they are. The glyph here, just tracker. You deal increased damage to poison targets, so if an enemy doesn't die in one hit, I'm still doing a massive amount of increased damage to them. Getting increased damage to poisoned enemies, as well as increased damage here. And then the other rare nodes I got, max resistance to all elements and armor. That's really useful. And then I got damage reduction from poison enemies, so if an enemy doesn't die, they're going to do less damage to me. And then, of course, max resistance to poison and poison resistance. Then, moving upward from the second board, so from Lust for Carnage, moving upward, got the Inner Beast node. After shapeshifting, your spirit costs are reduced by 5% for 10 seconds, up to 45%. If you reach 10 stacks, this bonus resets and reduces the cooldown of your ultimate skills by 5 seconds, which is alright. The glyph here, Werewolf. For every 5 willpower purchased within range, you deal 4.2% increased damage while in werewolf form. And I also gain damage reduction while in werewolf form due to the bonus. So that's really good. The rare nodes, the ones around the glyph, impel, damage, and willpower, and then shapeshifting damage and willpower, which is good. Then, the other rare nodes I got, the one that buffs attack speed and damage, that's just a good one. And then Slayer, armor and max life, that's also a good one. I want to eventually get that one, but no need yet. Hold on a second. Okay. I had to sneeze. So, moving on to the 5th and final board. This one is Ancestral Guidance. After spending 75 spirit, you deal 40% increased damage for 5 seconds. Ultimate skills deal extra damage, but I don't have an ultimate skill, so that doesn't matter. The glyph here, Territorial. Damage to close enemies, damage reduction from close enemies. That's pretty nice. And it gets core skill damage and willpower there. It gets damage there. Over here is another set of core skill damage and basic attack speed. And I also got the resistance to all elements and max life. I didn't get the max spirit or spirit on kill or the resource generation and max life, but that's okay. So that is the board. So, moving onward to gear. And I'm probably not going to actually run down there. So, Santa Claus, he has a few uniques that are needed to make this build work. Specifically, he needs 2. This build requires Shroud of False Death. If you haven't dealt damage in the last 2 seconds, gain stealth for 40% and 40% movement speed. But the main things is it gives +1 to all passives. That is really nice. It gives a bunch to all stats. It gives a bunch to all max life. And the main thing is that damage on next attack after entering stealth. 800% when it's fully maxed out. And it also gives resource generation, which is pretty nice. Pair that with the other required unique, Waxing Gibbous. Damage per hit, 1.1% attack speed, 50% chance for Shred to deal double damage, 160% critical strike damage, Blood Howl grants stealth for 3 seconds, 8 to Shred, 4 to Toxic Claws, and killing an enemy with Shred grants stealth for 2 seconds. Breaking stealth with an attack grants guaranteed critical strikes for 4 seconds. These two pair amazingly together because essentially I am stealthed, then when I break stealth with Shred, I'm doing increased damage that's a guaranteed critical strike and will most likely kill them, granting stealth again, which lets me go around and then just start massacring enemies. So that's kind of where this is getting at. And I'm going to be right back, actually. Alright, back. So, sorry about that. Alright, but yes, those two pair so well together because essentially it just makes it so that every time you kill an enemy, you enter stealth and you do more damage to enemies. Then, moving on to the other uniques that are recommended, highly recommended. Starting off with the easiest one to require, Malefic Crescent. You get this from Lord's Ear. I need a better one, but essentially this makes it so that my key passive, critical strike damage, is increased to 195% for consecutive critical strikes. So if it's not the first critical strike, it does even more damage. And with this, I get guaranteed critical strikes. So the other things, it gets me a percentage of my willpower, which is nice. It buffs critical strike damage with werewolf skills, movement speed while shapeshifted into a werewolf, and feral aptitude, which is another really useful key passive. Then the other uniques, recommend Ring of Starless Skies, because this helps with being able to cast Shred a bunch, and also it's really good. Spending your primary resource reduces the resource cost of your skills and increases your damage by 10% for 3 seconds up to 50%. It also gives plus to core skills, lucky hit chance, critical strike chance, and attack speed, all really good things. But essentially my skills cost half as much as they should after a few hits, and it also makes my damage a lot higher. So, pretty nice. It also gives me like 25% resistance to all elements, which is nice. Then the other one, Air of Perdition, super helpful item. Not the easiest to get, but it is helpful. Succumb to hatred and earn Mother's favor, increasing your damage dealt by 60%. Slaughter enemies to briefly steal Mother's favor from nearby allies. So, essentially what that means is, as far as I know at least, that is a base 60% damage multiplier. As well as, if other people are wearing the same helmet, you guys will like gain damage if you kill more than the other enemy or the other ally. So, at least one person per group should have this item, if not multiple. It's such a good one. It gives bonus damage to angels and demons, which is alright. Critical strike chance, 49% crit chance. That is insane. That's one item giving you a 50% chance to critically strike. 30% lucky hit chance, 30% movement speed, and 3 to core skills. And it's not even maxed out completely, which I need it to be. But yeah, that's that. And then, now I'm going to go on to the gear that I think could be better. Or one of them. These gloves, it's giving me bonus to willpower, attack speed, and core skills, all of which are good. Tempered, lucky hit chance to freeze. That was just, I needed a temper. And then bonus crit damage. This aspect is needed though. Shred gains a 4th dash attack that hits all surrounding enemies, deals 50% increased damage, and knocks down enemies for 2 seconds. That is needed. There's a few needed aspects. In fact, all of the items that I have a needed aspect. Not a single one is not. Pants. Bonus to willpower, max health, and armor. Tempered total armor and hurricane duration. You need to buff up hurricane duration to always have it active. I'll point out why on the next item. Gain 14% damage reduction while shapeshifted into a werewolf. I'll go over the rune words in a moment. This item is really nice. Bonus to willpower, max life, and resistance to all elements, just because I kind of needed it. 8 to digigrade gate, and 55% hurricane duration. Also, while Hurricane is active, gain 5 ranks to your shapeshifting skills, which is really good. And then, on to this item. Bonus to willpower, max health, and damage. Damage could probably be switched out for like crit damage, preferably, but it's alright. Tempered crit damage and chance for Shred to deal double damage. Essentially, these two items together are making Shred have a 70% chance to deal double damage. And also, critical strikes with Shred deal 75% of the damage dealt as lightning damage to the target and surrounding enemies. So all those things I had that were buffing up lightning damage trigger on Shred now, because I'm almost guaranteed critically strike. And last item, this ring. Willpower, attack speed, crit damage, hurricane cooldown reduction, and crit damage were the tempers. So essentially, I'm trying to make it so that Hurricane is always active, and I'm trying to make my crit damage as high as possible. It's kind of how this build works. And then Shred deals 70% more damage, and Shred has a 33% chance to land an additional strike up to 4 times. So I have a 1 out of 3 chance to get an extra hit with Shred, which is pretty good. Now, the Rune Words. Cast a non-channeled core skill to invoke the Barbarian's Challenging Shout, taunting enemies and reducing your damage taken. This build, as far as I have it right now, needs help surviving. It is like kind of difficult to live. I don't have that much defensibility. As you see, I don't even have max armor. I don't even have max resistances. So all those things buffing up armor and resistances, not enough for me at the moment. So that damage reduction from Challenging Shout is needed with the gear that I have currently. And then, on the pants, cast 5 skills, then become exhausted for 3 seconds, invoke Barbarian's Warcry, increasing your damage dealt. So essentially, I cast Shred a bunch, and I'll do even more damage. And that's kind of where those are all coming from. As far as like the rotation and the skills go, only cast Earthen Bulwark to get out of an impairment. So that's like if I need to, I cast it. Hurricane should always be active. Blood Howl, utilize whenever you need healing or need to enter stealth, or if you're just trying to get some of those defensive bonuses. Debilitating Roar, if enemies are doing a bunch of damage, Debilitating Roar will make them do less, and also give you a nice damage bonus. Or if I like stun a boss, I'll use Debilitating Roar and then Shred a bunch. Claw, never use. Shred, use constantly. Like, instead of moving around with left click, I actually move around with right click. And then, this is on Torment 4, so these are as hard as the open world mobs get. These guys can and will kill me if they hit me. But, let's just, yeah. You're seeing like hits for like 20 million, 8 million. Like, this build does a lot of damage. And then, when I need to buff up my skills, Hurricane, and now I'm doing even more damage. And that's kind of how this one works. It's also stupid fun. I don't know if anyone else does this build, probably. I haven't looked it up. I like to make the builds on my own, and then I like to look up if they are. See, that was just 3 arrows almost killed me. I mean, I heal back, like, instantly, but... yeah, I heal back, like, almost instantly. But still. It's a bunch of damage. But yes, that is my super sneaky stealth werewolf Santa Claus build. He's super sneaky. Can't even see him. Oh, I do gotta show off the usefulness of being stealth. Like, I could literally just stand here and they won't see me. It's great. So the combat doesn't start until I'm like, yeah, you could die. It is fun though. But yes, this build definitely has room for improvement. Like, this item could be a lot better. These boots could have a greater affix. This item could definitely be a lot better, and I need a better one. But that is essentially this build. Oh wait, I forgot to go over Spirit Boons. Spirit Boons. Eagle. I don't need the bonus crit chance and lucky hit chance. I don't need the max life. I need the... well, actually, I might need the max life. But I went with attack speed and critical strike damage. That one's definitely needed. As far as the deer one went, I went with 15% movement speed and 15% impairment reduction. You could probably get away with wariness, the reduced damage from elites. Or you could probably go with prickle skin, 5% increased damage to enemies for 5 seconds after they attack you. I would probably go with these two though. The wolf one, energized, dealing damage, has a 15% chance to fully restore your spirit. You could get away with other stuff. Yeah, but that's the one that I thought was the most useful. As far as the snake went, masochistic. Critical strikes with shapeshifting skills have a 75% chance to heal you for 10% of your max life. I have guaranteed critical strikes. So, Spirit Boons, definitely useful. I recommend those ones. I'm going to slap these guys, and there we go. But yeah, oftentimes they don't even get a chance to attack me. is the thing. But I'm going to call it there. I love this build. It's a really fun one. It is able to do Torment 4, but only barely. Its downside is the health. When I get more damage reduction and resistances and armor, then I'll be a little bit better. But yeah, that is this build for now. I hope everyone has a good day, and I will call it there. Take care.